everybody, welcome to the channel, welcome to the first of the new series, Let's Discuss. I really hope you enjoy this content, and if you've come over from my gastric bypass videos, I really hope you stick around, learn something, have a new way of thinking about things. This is all about current events, it's all about my feelings on current things. Where people have watched my gastric bypass videos said that I've always felt very honest when I was talking about things, and I want to continue that honesty. And I really hope that this is something that everybody will enjoy. What I'm going to be doing is talking about the most current topics going on and giving my opinion. And failing that, I'm going to rant for 20 minutes about things that impact me and make me feel and think things. So without further delay, let's get into the first subject today, which is let's discuss the coronavirus lockdown easing. Thank you.
War and physicians, healthcare workers are on the front line. So we see not the enemy, but the effect of this enemy.
Coronavirus.
COVID-19.
From coronavirus.
Coronavirus cases. Coronavirus patients.
COVID-19.
The coronavirus.
Virus.
Of this virus.
Coronavirus confirmed COVID-19.
That COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
31st of December 2019, Wuhan Health Commission China reported a cluster of cases of pneumonia in Wuhan, Hubei province. A novel coronavirus was eventually identified. By 12th of January 2020, China has shared publicly the genetic sequence of COVID-19, and it wouldn't be long before other countries would be using that to identify their own cases. Just one day later, the first recorded case was found outside China in Thailand. For Italy and many other countries around the world, the damage was already done. The world got to see just how fast this virus could cripple a first world country with a state-of-the-art medical system. But as Italy started to suffer, we saw the rest of the world beginning to suffer too. By March the 3rd, 2020, there were 93 confirmed cases around the world, and countries were entering lockdown. In the UK, we started our lockdown on the 23rd of March, arguably much later than it should have been. Right, so that was a brief history of how we are so far with COVID-19. The short answer being we're pretty much fucked. Before we continue any further, I just want to say thank you to all the key workers. Thank you to all the people that have risked their lives and their families' lives to continue the normal life for us. Everyone from binmen to the school teachers that are still giving out work, to police officers, to obviously NHS staff. You're all amazing, and without your work and dedication, the rest of us stuck in furlough and stuck in lockdown would not be having the simple lives that we have been having. So, I'd also like to send my thoughts to people who have lost people during this pandemic. It's really a horrible time for so many people, and not being able to be with loved ones in their final moments, it must be heartbreaking. So, now we've hit our peaks. So what do we do next? Well, Boris said there would be... And on Sunday the 10th of May, he tried his best to muster his inner Churchill with a brave speech to the nation. And this is a bit of what he said.
It is now almost 2 months since the people of this country began to put up with restrictions on their freedom, your freedom, of a kind that we have never seen before in peace or war. And you have shown the good sense to support those rules overwhelmingly. You've put up with all the hardships of that program of social distancing because you understand that as things stand, and as the experience of every other country has shown, it's the only way to defeat the coronavirus, the most vicious threat this country has faced in my lifetime.
But his speech only seemed to lead to a lot of confusion. And here's Matt Lucas to show us how that felt.
So we are saying, don't go to work, go to work. Don't take public transport, go to work, don't go to work. Stay indoors. If you can work from home, go to work. Don't go to work. Go outside, don't go outside. And then we will or won't, something or other.
Then his new slogan turned into an instant meme. We gotta love a meme. Cue the beams. That just makes me so unbelievably proud to be British. Absolutely gotta love the British sense of humour. Right, so to sum up, people were confused. You had to go to work, kind of. You weren't allowed to use public transport, kind of. But you could sell your house. So therefore you can have a plumber, electrician, potential buyers, estate agents, everybody like that come to your house, but you couldn't welcome your grandchild or grandmother to your house. People were confused. People still are confused. But basically, think about this. This is what the thought process is. If this risk increases the economy, you're allowed to take it. If this risk increases being sociable, you're probably not allowed to take it. And that's the balancing scales. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to costs. It comes down to the economy. The furlough scheme is an amazing, amazing thing. We are so fortunate to have that. Rishi, you're the man. Well done for doing that. Well done for extending that until October as well. Being a restaurant manager, I have to say I was worried. The hospitality industry, and I'm also tied into the airports. The airline industry is in disarray. We have no idea when things are going to get back to normal. So having that security blanket, it's a weight off my shoulders. Means I can focus on stuff like this. So thank you very much for that. So what is the next stage of easing? What has Boris announced? Boris has announced on the 1st of June, and I must stipulate he's been very, very clear about all the dates that have been announced being flexible, and they are all going to be based on the science, as they always say, the scapegoat, as I like to call it. Well, 1st of June, some non-essential shops are being planned to be reopened, and as far as supermarkets and stuff go, if they continue with the same rules as the supermarkets have done, and some supermarkets have done this really, really well, then it can be safe. It can mean a lot of people getting off the furlough scheme, because the furlough scheme is costing about the same amount of money per week as to run the whole of the NHS, so it's a massive cost. So it gets people off the furlough scheme, gets people back out into shops spending money, does mean more people on the street, does mean more people in car parks, does mean more people coming into contact with each other. But again, it's that weighing the risk of infection versus the risk of the economy, and for those people like myself who are in the shielded group, then that's a choice that they're going to have to make themselves. Personally, it's not something I'll be willing to rush out and do. But the big one, schools. Schools seems to be a big problem at the moment. There seems to be a lot of hostility between schools, school unions, and the government as to whether this was the right thing to do. Now, the way I look at it, it was purely idiotic of Boris Johnson to go on this Sunday night and say that schools are going to be open on the 1st of June. Now, to be clear, he is only talking about years reception, years 1 and year 6. Year 6, I assume that's the last year before they go into secondary school, so it's a time for them to be able to say goodbye to their friends, say goodbye to their teachers before moving on to another school. So it kind of gives them closure on that school. And from what I've heard, I've only heard this once, years reception in year 1, if you don't have that foundation of stability of school put into them, then it can affect many years of their further education. But I've only heard that once. I've not heard that recently at all. So maybe I'm wrong on that. But it really was absolutely crazy of Boris Johnson to go there and announce this without speaking to the schools first. Every school is different. You know, there are ways that they've put in things like reducing class size rooms down to 15, etc., keeping the same kids with the same students, blah, blah, blah. But it's still going to mean a lot of people mixing. And years reception and years 1 do not understand social distancing. I know that. I have a 5-year-old daughter. She does not understand social distancing. She's got a friend downstairs. When she sees that friend downstairs, the first thing she wants to do every time is run and give her a hug, because that's what kids do. Now, another thing about getting some of the children back to school would mean some of the parents are going to be more free and able to go back to work, which I think is really the bigger indicator in the whole thing. Also, children are much lower risk of infection, so they're kind of playing guinea pig to try and get the economy started. If little one is going to school, that means mummy and daddy can be going back to work. And I think that's really what Boris Johnson has been trying to do here, getting people back to work. So, phase 3, expected 1st of July. Again, date is not fixed. This is all based on the scapegoat. Sorry, I mean science. That would be hospitality, bars, pubs, restaurants, cinemas, swimming pools, all coming back to normal. So at the end of this, we're left with a few questions. Question number 1, should we still be in lockdown? Well, there are plenty of people around the world who feel we should not be in lockdown.
We're not stupid. We know if we have COVID, we stay home. If we don't, though, we have a country here, and we have the United States of America. For not breaking the law.
Everybody gets on camera, they're assaulting me. I do not consent.
Now, rightly or wrongly, these protesters are protesting because they think that their mental and economic well-being is just as important, if not more important, than their health. What they're not taking into account is the health of others. It seems to be quite selfish, in my opinion. But in reality, for every crazy 5G coronavirus causing nut there is, there's also people who are basing this on logic and science. In fact, there's a whole nation in Europe that is following the herd immunity, and it's following the science they believe in to the course of action that they feel is best. This is, of course, Sweden, and this is what one of their doctors, who's also a member of the World Health Organization, has to say.
You've been a strong critic of the idea of lockdowns. Sweden has avoided the sort of lockdowns that we're seeing here in Australia. Tell us your thoughts. Are lockdowns the correct way to go?
You introduced me by saying that I would say that you got it all wrong. I don't think you got it all wrong, but you painted yourself into a corner, and I'm watching with interest how you and 100 other countries will climb out of the lockdown. Because I don't think any government that I know gave a minute's thought about how they would get out of the different lockdowns that are installed. Seeing is a tsunami of a rather mild infection spreading around the globe. And I think there's very little chance to stop it by any measure we take. Most people will become infected by this, and most people won't even notice.
So what this doctor is saying is that regardless of whether a country enters a lockdown or not, you're fucked. The same amount of people are roughly going to die if you don't protect them. The same amount of people are roughly going to get ill, and the same amount of people are going to roughly end up in intensive care. Not sure I personally agree with that, but he does kind of have a point of how the hell do we get out of these lockdowns. The moment Boris Johnson started talking about easing lockdown was the moment that everybody became a virologist. Everybody had an opinion, everybody had an idea. I'm not saying that I have an idea. I'm not saying that any ideas I do have are already good, because I'm not a virologist either. We're in this mess. We're in this lockdown. We have to do something to get out of it. And in my opinion, the something that we need to do to get out of it is a middle ground. Is exactly what Boris Johnson is trying to do. We have to start somewhere, and we have to be willing to be flexible. We have to be willing to move. Employers need to look at other ways of helping their businesses operate. Employees need to be prepared to go back to work under different contracts, different times, different means, whatever they need to do. Because the simple fact is that if we continue as we are in lockdown, we are fucked. People are still dying, people are still getting infected, the economy is being destroyed, and there has to be some middle ground. Now, I'm a big tech guy, and I think there has to be a technical solution for this. And I think there's a lot of people out there worried that the current plans for the NHSX app breaks privacy rules. And I'm sure most of those people out there have Google accounts, and most of those people out there have Facebook accounts and Instagram accounts and everything else, and post their life all over the internet anyway. So why they're going to suddenly start kicking up a fuss about this, I'm not quite sure. Of course, those apps are reliant on people downloading them, people using them, and people having technology that actually works with them, which from what I've been hearing is only around 20% of the nation, which isn't enough to make them work. So, did we do the right thing to enter lockdown? Are we doing the right thing to get out of lockdown? Only time's going to tell. I really hope you've enjoyed this video today, and I'd really love it if people could drop some comments down below whether they think this is the right thing, whether they have some amazing ideas on how to get us out of it, or whether we should have entered lockdown or not in the first place. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time on Let's Discuss.